Thanks, Alex, for the opportunity to talk today. So one thing we've been doing at Planning Insights, part of our Insights Hub, is kind of give lots of guides and useful tools for developers and investors to hopefully narrow down and improve their searches and get more development. So one of those is our housing supply and delivery reports for both the northern and southern home counties. Key areas where housing supply and planning position are really critical to actually getting planning permissions over the line. I'm sure lots of people have heard of the presumption in favour of sustainable development, and it's these measures that we're talking about which trigger that, which in some instances can make it easier to get planning approval on sites that wouldn't ordinarily achieve planning consent, although there's a lot of caveats around that. So what our guides do is look at available data, usually published by the authorities themselves. So it sets out the housing position for each local authority within the various county areas. So we've got the southern home counties, which we've just now updated for 2021, which is Kent, Surrey, East Sussex, West Sussex, Berkshire and Hampshire. Hampshire hasn't been released yet, but it is coming. It looks at the 5-year housing land supply. It looks at the housing delivery test, and it also looks at their stage of their local plan process. So how old is their local plan, which has implications for how they calculate what housing they need, but also what's their emerging local plan date, what's the likelihood. And we provide a bit of a commentary, and we provide a bit of a, very simply put, what's the outlook for a developer. So sunny spells ahead mean that there's probably some good opportunities in the near future to target some of those sites that might ordinarily be refused. So what we do is we look at the housing supply position. Councils will often assert what their housing supply is. We'll look at that and kind of question it. We don't dive into absolutely every micro line of their housing supply, but we do pick apart some issues, and we do sometimes flag areas where that would be open for challenge. Housing delivery tests, so councils now are required to deliver 75% against their requirement over the past 3 years. If they fail either of those tests, they face the presumption. So the presumption in favour of sustainable development, which means it's more difficult effectively for a council that has housing policies that constrain development, so settlement boundaries, those that draw a nice hard line around a settlement or a village or a town and say nothing outside. Those that are immediately adjacent to it become far more easier to get approval for because of what's known as the tilted balance. So that's why we draw out this data. We present it in a nice simple format at a county level, so people can download a simple county report and look at their little area, get short commentary, understand the position. And what we're trying to facilitate is for developers to be able to use this to then target sites. So if you're doing direct to vendor, or if you're negotiating or dealing with agents, you can kind of identify those areas that look like they are a weaker position now perhaps, or are in the likelihood over the next 12 months going to perhaps fall and face the presumption, and therefore could be some good opportunities there. Another aspect to it is that, so it's not always a tick box exercise, so it could show some examples where, and we raised this, where you've got those that are a bit more pro-development. So those councils that are quite happy to go, yeah, we've got loads of supply, loads of delivery, we love it, we love permissions. So Eastleigh is a great example that we've kind of flagged, that they look like they're all for it. So I think there's a local MP there that's questioning whether they're overdeveloping. So there could be some interesting opportunities there. So it's not all about tick box numbers. There's another opportunity there as well of understanding where a council's area is at in terms of its local plan. So if you can see an opportunity in the next 12 months for call for sites and promoting sites, so if you're on that longer term trajectory of identifying opportunities, then that could work very well. So you could look out for those. So I definitely recommend that any developers that are operating in any of the southern and home counties, that they look at our guides. It gives a very, very quick, clear snapshot of where they are at the moment, what the outlook's like to be for the next 12 months. And kind of understand the planning position, what we think the planning position is for housing development in those locations. Little hint, sometimes those that are, so there's a couple in there that have got like a year's worth of supply. Now that's normally a clue that politically they're an absolute mess, and I probably wouldn't touch those. Those that are just short are probably the slightly more pro, and they've just kind of fallen by the wayside for the moment. Really good opportunities there. to kind of help them deliver their 5-year housing land supply. Couple of specific ones that I've pulled out that have flipped from 2020 to 2021. Hastings, Surrey Heath, Ashford, Bracknell and Windsor and Maidenhead last year were absolutely hunky-dory and fine. Windsor and Maidenhead had 6 years housing land supply, I think, last year. Now they've got less than 5, so they've lost a lot. Some interesting opportunities there. However, you still need a sustainable site. You can't just pick a farm in the middle of nowhere and think you're going to plonk 50 houses on it. So tread with an air of caution, but they are still very useful, we feel, to be able for developers to then use that to target their sites. In terms of getting the information, so we've updated the southern home counties, northern home counties in the process of being done at the moment. Recommend signing up to our newsletter. We often publish them through that. Follow us on social media, and check out our Insights Hub, which Alex has kindly posted there in the chat room for all our Insights Hub, as well as our PD guides and everything else.
Peter, thank you very much. And for those who are curious, TrustedLand have started using these reports in our own endeavors to try and identify areas. And I just think, as per my question to Kieran around the changes, what is it going to mean